to another episode of Let's Talk Weekly. I'm Greg.
And I'm Josie.
And yes, Thomas will be returning next week. This week we are going to be reacting to the midterms because they were quite interesting. We're first going to focus on these two very funny Senate races. Which was I don't know if y'all been watching the news, but Dr. Oz wanted to run for Senate. Remember Dr. Oz? Remember how he would like be on TV and sell supplements and
I
do all
remember all the things he made my mom buy to lose weight. Yes.
yeah. This fool from New Jersey, I will always say that. This fool from New Jersey has been defeated by the good old John Fetterman. And I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen for you guys. Yeah, so Fetterman defeats Oz in the Pennsylvania Senate race, giving Democrats a boost. Now, the Democrats have actually already been declared as having the lead in the Senate. They have control now. What this this is so crazy because not only he was Dr. Oz was a Trump backed candidate, he was also an election denier candidate, as well as just crazy, like the craziest things he would say. This is supposed to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Josie, what are your thoughts on this race?
I'm getting pretty sick and tired of celebrities thinking that because they have a little bit of clout that it makes them, qualified enough to be candidates. You're not Donald Trump, everybody. And certainly not you, Dr. Oz. People have been seeing through your bullshit for far longer.
Yeah, well, apparently not just everyone, but Oprah herself had went ahead and supported John Fetterman in the race and not Dr. Oz. And it's funny because Oprah was the reason why Dr. Oz had a career. That was funny. It was literally like the biggest slap in the face you can give someone, and it was just amazing to hear that. Like the moment when Oprah turns on you, that's when you know you fucked up.
Yes, because if Oprah wanted to run for president, she would probably win. So,
Yeah. And but like that goes back to the whole like celebrity thing. Like I just don't like I want people who have experience. Just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean you can run. If you are a celebrity and also an activist, like good old Jade Fonda, we love her.
mm.
Then yeah, because you're putting your money where your mouth is. But Dr. Oz, you were trying to, you saw an opportunity and it failed. You was from New Jersey. Like, come on, honey. You
Yep.
really think that they were going to let someone from New Jersey represent them?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no offense to people in New Jersey. My best friend's from New Jersey. But come on. Like, oh gosh. Another race that we want to go ahead and talk about is Georgia. Because another candidate who was Trump backed and an election denier, as well as someone who doesn't support, people with uteruses, the right to their body. Good old Raphael Warnock had to run against this terrible person named Herschel Walker. Yeah, what pisses me off is the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of the Republican Party. Because they always want to talk about how they are the party of family values. They are for small government. They don't want the government interfering with our lives. yet they back this motherfucker who I think it's now 2 women came uh has come out to say that he paid for their abortions.
Mm.
Uh so this Senate race, it's feels like a flashback of 2020. We'll be heading over to a runoff because not both candidates didn't reach 50%. So they will be going on a runoff. And that will be something to look closely at in January. But Josie, what are your thoughts on this race? And what are your thoughts on Herschel Walker, who's supposed to be this, family values guy, but he's off paying for people's abortions?
Like you said, I'm not a hypocrite lover myself. I think that if you're going to come out and be anti-abortion, if you're going to come out and say that you stand for everything that the Republicans and Donald Trump stand for, then you should probably take a look at your life and make sure that you're standing by those same values in practice. And there's plenty of Republicans who have said, I don't care if he killed the baby himself with his bare hands, I'm not voting for a Democrat. And I thought, well, that's pretty telling. Because if a Democratic candidate had murdered somebody with their bare hands,
Mm.
I would take issue with that and probably not vote for that individual.
It's so how very pro-life of them to say
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, I fucking hate the term pro-life. Stop calling yourselves pro-life.
No, you're
Choice.
anti-abortion.
You're anti-choice, like, period. You're
Mm-hmm.
anti-choice. You're not pro-life, because if you're pro-life, you'd be pro-gun control, pro-universal health care, pro-universal education. Because
Mm-hmm.
we all know education's an equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
Pro-jobs for all, pro-housing for all. I can go on. But no, you're pro-birth. You're
Mm-hmm.
pro-birth. Just say that. You're pro forcing people to have babies that they either can't or can't have because of health, or can't sustain because of how terrible this economy is. That's what
Mm-hmm.
you
And you're anti-abortion on a theological basis that is not exist in the Bible. It does not say that life begins at conception. In the old Judaic practices, it actually says, and in the modern ones, it says that life begins at first breath, which is, a common theme in the scriptures. So
Mhm.
miss me with that, okay?
Yeah. Oh, and then I do believe, you don't baptize a stillbirth because it's not a life. Like, I believe the Catholic Church does that. They don't baptize a stillbirth. And there was
Which,
you
if they
probably
thought that that baby was alive in utero, then they would baptize that baby. But
hmm.
their beliefs continue to contradict their other beliefs.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that I if you can provide the passage, that would be great. But I believe that there is a part in the Bible where God literally says, if like a woman has a baby with another man, you have to go and rip out that baby.
I don't know that passage off the top of my head, but there is an abortion story in the Bible, and I
Yeah,
don't remember it, but if you Google it, you'll find it very quickly.
yeah, yeah. Oh, there's this one TikToker. I forget her name, but she does Bible stories told by a witch, and she's so cool. Um, if I remember her, it'll be in the comment, or it'll be in the description below. But yeah, so I'm really glad that, people came out at least to vote against that guy. I just hope that people come out again and, you know, make sure he is defeated, because I just can't live in a world where Herschel Walker is in the Senate.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
mean, we live in a world
yeah.
with Mitch McConnell in the Senate, but
Right. Let's hope, but
hmm,
honestly, there's very little hope for the Republican Party these days, so
well, you know what also pisses me off is that they're using the sole reason that he's black to like modernize their party.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is just all kinds of racism right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say as a person of color that you can hold values that are racist even if you are a person of color. And
Yeah.
I see this in my own community. There's plenty of Latino voters that, vote Republican. One, because we're not a monolith, and two, because we all come from different experiences, right? For example, Cubans are known to be very conservative, very much backers of the Republican Party. But I will remind you that they had an easier passage back when their communism was going underway. They had a much easier time getting to this country than my people would, the Mexicans. And that continues to this day.
Yeah.
But they don't like communism, and that's fine. You cannot like communism, but that does not mean that you have to be conservative. That does not mean that you have to be Republican. Because let me tell you, my dad is a staunch evangelical. He loves the Lord, he loves his church, and he has never aligned himself with the Republican Party in his life. He has
Oh,
always been pro blue. And that's because he just knows that the party of money and power has not ever been the party that would align with his religious beliefs. I
yeah.
mean, he might not be pro abortion, but he's definitely not pro keeping people poor either.
And like that's the thing, you can be personally anti-abortion.
Mm
There's some people that just could not have one.
hmm. Mm hmm.
However, that does not mean you get to go and point your little finger and tell people what to do. You just don't.
Right. Right.
You can't.
I agree. And on the topic of Georgia, unfortunately, friends, Marjorie Taylor Greene has won her race and will continue to be in Congress. That's a big
Moving
fat
on to the
bummer.
house
Yeah.
as a beautiful segue.
Yeah.
A much lighter note, I'm going to go ahead and share again. I'm finally represented. Gen Z has arrived in Congress. Maxwell Frost, age 25, wins in Florida of all states. Right? So yes, there's him.
He beat a 72-year-old, friends.
I mean, God, shit, like it's crazy. But I'm so glad that we finally have our first member of Gen Z, but also Gen Z was known to vote overwhelmingly for support of Democrats. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what? But I need to give a little spiel. Okay. Yeah. Gen Z and millennials turned out for Democrats overwhelmingly. I think it was like 63%. That means you have to fucking listen to us. You have to. That means we need to start on universal health care. All the things I've mentioned earlier. If you want to be pro-life,
Mm-hmm.
and if you want to continue our support. And that also goes back to Maxwell Frost. Okay, you're this progressive who got into Congress. Are you going to be a real progressive? Or are you going to be a progressive? Like, I'm sorry, I'm very critical towards AOC. She hasn't talked about Medicare for all in months. She has turned her back on a lot of progressive issues lately. And she has also supported is funding for Israel's Iron Dome. She's voted to support that and votes on votes for military spending bills. You're one Democrat. You're not if you vote against it, it's not going to make a difference. It's still going to pass. But it's just this stupid idea of party unity is what's ruining us. It really is. But Josie, go ahead and give me your thoughts. I just had to give my little spiel on that.
I mean, all I have to say is that the cultural tide will continue to change, and whether the Republican Party or the more conservative Democrats want to continue to not listen to the constituents, then that will be reflected in future elections. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
Do
They
you
can either
think
step up or they can be left behind.
do you think that the Republican Party will even exist in the future because of this, big wave of, progressive like we already know that Gen Z and millennials are progressive, but like Gen Alpha is like 10 years away from voting.
Yeah, but Gen Alpha is still influenced by the conservative people in their surroundings, unfortunately. I don't see the Republican Party going anywhere anytime soon, especially when you consider the numbers all across the country.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping that even they will come to see that their constituents want a little bit of more progress in what they're willing to give at this point in history.
Yeah. I it's my thing is, if Democrats keep continuing to keep their neoliberal approach to policy and keep doing the bare minimum, they're going to lose our support. And um yeah, like if the Democrats don't, like, okay, so in order to have a true two-party system, one party needs to be an opposition party. But that's not what we're seeing. Both parties are controlled by corporate donors. We see that all the time. And, if the Democrats want to be that working class party, that party of the people, then you need to get back to your FDR roots, you know. And I hope, Maxwell Frost the best. I hope he continues, to give a voice to young people. I feel really glad that I'm finally represented as a generation. It's one person out of 435 people in the house, but at least there's that one person, and that's all that matters.
Mm.
Now moving local, which is the LA race. Karen Bass is, let me just get to it because the computer wants to be mean to me. Okay. So Karen Bass finally widens the lead over Rick Caruso in latest numbers. So
We have new numbers in the race for mayor of Los Angeles. Latest ballot drop from the LA County Registrar shows Karen Bass leading Rick Caruso by about 9,000 votes. The congressman pulled ahead in the race yesterday. So far, an estimated 67% of the vote has been counted. Well,
so yeah, I'm really glad that is the case. It was getting a little scary at one point. Rick Caruso has been very, very bad when it comes to, unhoused people. And as you know, LA is known for its unhoused population. We need Karen Bass in as mayor. And in our production meeting on Friday, you mentioned that some celebrities have endorsed Rick Caruso. Can you please explain who these celebrities are?
Yeah, so from what I saw, we had the likes of Katy Perry and Chris Pratt as a couple of examples of people that backed Rick Caruso. And I will remind you that Katy Perry comes from a very evangelical background. She decided to go pop because she could not make it in the Christian world, at least allegedly. And Chris Pratt, turned his back on his comedic roots because he found the Lord and decided that he was going to be more conservative than he used to be. These people are both wealthy. They come from incredible wealth. They live in a Los Angeles that is not the real Los Angeles. They would like to see unhoused people get away from their eyesight. They don't want to see them when they drive down the freeway. They don't want to see piles of trash that are left behind because people don't have adequate sanitation. And sure, we all get it. We understand. We don't want to see unhoused people either. But the Katy Perrys and Chris Pratts of the world would like to just see them disappear on a bus, never to be seen again, without caring about what happens to the individuals in their lives. Whereas the rest of us would like to see these people housed and given medical attention, given jobs, given a safe place to eat and provide for their families and provide for themselves. Yeah. Rick Caruso is just another millionaire asshole. He owns the Grove, a giant mall, for example, in Los Angeles, known for celebrity spottings. He is a real estate mogul who wants places like Skid Row to be better, quote unquote better, because he wants to be able to develop places like that. He wants to be able to gentrify and develop Los Angeles, and he cannot do that if people are continuously unhoused. And instead of addressing the actual issues of what causes homelessness, he will just get rid of them. And that is not what we want for Los Angeles, at least not here on this show. So
Oh yeah.
don't listen to Katy Perry. Don't listen to Chris Pratt. They are
Well, you
interested in their
mentioned
own
another
agenda.
celebrity that also voted for Rick Caruso, which was very disappointing, which was Snoop Dogg.
Yes, Snoop Dogg as well. Snoop Dogg, we're going to have a conversation if I ever meet you in the future, because as a
My honey,
fellow,
what kind of shirt are you
yeah,
smoking?
as a fellow Southeast LA person, I'm from Southgate, next town over from Long Beach. Yeah, talk about class traitor. Snoop Dogg, come on. I know you're rich now, but you got to remember where you come from, all right?
Yeah. Like,
These
I
con-
just can't believe those kind of people that just like come from nothing, get
Mm.
big, have a bunch of money, and just for like, oh my gosh, if I were ever to get like, I know this is separate from our actual conversation, but God, if I were to get so much money, you know how much, you know, I'd be going back to my roots and be like, here, here, here.
And unfortunately, that's just not what happens, right? And also, there's tons of misinformation. We don't really know how educated Snoop Dogg is on these issues. We would hope that he would not open his mouth if he was uneducated. But the fact of the matter is that Rick Caruso did change his party alignment to Democrat for this race specifically because he knew that
Yes.
he would not have a chance
Mhm.
of winning if he ran as a Republican.
Yeah.
And many people don't know that, right? Some of us like to Google and like to look into who we're voting for, but not
Yeah.
everybody does that. All they see is, oh, a business guy would know what to do. He's a Democrat, sounds fine, right?
Mhm.
Especially when running against a woman. Misogyny comes into play as well, and even more so, a black woman of color. That makes things a little bit more complicated. So, I mean, we're a
Yeah.
victim of gender and race politics, unfortunately, as well.
Well, what also like is very disappointing is that a lot of people don't know of how much of a progressive champion that Karen Bass is. You know,
Mm.
she has a history. And I mean, there were some problems with her campaign. Um, for starters, I believe there were two different campaign managers at some point, and in order to run a good campaign, you have to be consistent.
Mm.
And I'm glad that that's no longer the case and it got better towards the end. Um, but yeah, it's very disappointing to see celebrities do that. They get involved into politics and they, I mean, they go where the money talks, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that Karen Bass is in the lead. She's going to be a really good mayor of Los Angeles. Oh, and
Let's hope it
also
stays
Gwyneth
that way.
Paltrow endorsed her. Okay, so we love Goop. Um,
As a woman, I'm not much of a Goop fan, but I like the aesthetic.
so yeah. All right. If Pepper Potts says vote for Karen Bass, then you vote for Karen Bass. Okay. So yeah, that concludes our main conversation about the midterms. Now for fun topic. So The Crown season 5 came out this week. Let's look at a clip. Oh, that was the wrong clip. No, The Crown did come out this week, but King Charles was egged this week as well. So we want to talk about King Charles for a bit. What are your thoughts on King Charles?
I'm not a big fan of the British monarchy or any monarchy actually.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I was not alive in the 80s, I will say this.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason, Latin moms specifically love Princess Diana. And I don't have very strong feelings one way or another. I think she was great. I love that she was rebellious. And I hate that her husband cheated on her and that
Uh-huh.
that
And was
cheater is,
abusive and
yes.
was the reason why she had bulimia.
So I'm not a big fan of
Yeah.
King Charles as a result. Don't even like calling him king. I'll just call him Charlie. Not a big fan of
Charlie,
Charlie.
little Charlie,
Not a big fan of how he treats people. Not a big fan of how he treats his workers. And quite frankly, not a big fan of how he treats his children either. So I'm
Oh
gonna,
yeah.
as a staunch activist and as a lover of eggs, I'm gonna say hallelujah, praise the Lord. We love mild violence.
Yeah, unfortunately, that person was arrested, but wasn't detained afterwards. They were just, given a ticket. But
Sounds like a well placed money to me.
I mean, honestly, I'd probably save enough money for a ticket to do that. I'd be like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's totally worth it.
Yes, as an American, fuck the British, fuck the monarchy.
Mhm.
As an Republic of Ireland sympathizer, I lived there for a short period of time. Yes, again, fuck the monarchy.
Yeah. As an American, as um someone whose lineage comes from both Northern Ireland and Scotland, fuck you bitches. Like, oh my gosh. If you really want to see how terrible the British are, please watch Outlander. It literally shows the Scottish rebellion against the British and how terrible they were.
Hmm.
Go ahead and watch that. It's amazing. Um, but yeah, I was watching The Crown season 5, and God, he is just so terrible. And there's a reason why the monarchy and the people who are close to the monarchy don't like the show. Is because it isn't favorable. I mean, it has its moments where it kind of makes like the monarchy like a little humanized, but for the most part, they're bitches.
Yeah, and I mean, growing up with incredible amounts of privilege will do that to you.
Hmm.
It is not abnormal. It is not, unreasonable for us to assume that these people are terrible human beings.
Yeah. I
I
mean, if
mean, the
you're
little kid, little grandson over there, what's his name? Little Georgie. He has been telling his classmates allegedly that he was gonna get them when he's king. And it's like, okay, well, somebody has a little ego already, so I imagine that his dad does as well, and his grandfather.
oh my God. Is
So we're
that
just
true?
it's alleged, and also even if it is, I mean, he is a baby. He is a you know grade school child, so you can't take a lot of what they say
Yeah.
seriously.
I
He
threw
might grow to
rocks at
regret
people
that.
when I was 5,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, but I also assume that his parents aren't knocking him upside the head for saying stuff like that, right?
Oh
So,
no, he'd definitely get an ass beaten if he was my kid.
don't
No, I'm kidding. Don't hate your kids.
hate your kids.
I know. I'm just kidding. All right, folks. That concludes another episode of Let's Talk Weekly. I'm Greg,
I'm Josie.
and ta-ta.